Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at Magic 2014 and we're going to move on and look at Death Reaper, which is the black and red deck. So, deck list here, we've got 22 creatures, 7 instants, 3 sorceries, 2 artifacts, 1 enchantment and 25 land. We've got mana curve off to the side there. So let's start looking at the cards. So the foil face rare is Liliana's Reaver. So 2 and 2 black for a 4/3 with Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they discard a card, and you make a 2/2 black zombie creature token that comes into play tapped. This I think is probably the best out of the M14 like foil face rares. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely in the running for it because I just feel like it does a lot, right? So at 4 mana, you're getting quite a lot here because like 4/3 with Death Touch for 4 mana is like okay in black at the time, and then it's got the extra, if it gets through and hits an opponent, and it might because maybe they don't want to block it. Actually, that's why I like it in terms of design, because it is a real like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of interaction. Like you either block it and like you're definitely losing creature because it has Death Touch, or it's going to get through and you're going to discard a card, take 4, and make a zombie. So yeah, really good card. Actually, I really like it. Yeah, pretty solid start to the deck, I think. So the other rare is Bogbrew Witch, and this is a card I really love. So 3 and a black. For a 1/3, so not great stats, but you can pay 2 and tap, search your library for a card named Festering Newt or Bubbling Cauldron, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. And the reason why I love this card is going back to M12, we had the Empire artifacts. And that deck there, which was all about assembling the specific three combo of like the Empire artifacts, like the Crown of Empires, the Throne of Empires, and the Scepter of Empires. I just like it when cards specifically reference other cards. I really like that. It's just a small thing that I really enjoy, because mostly because it really helps deck building. It sort of like says like, right, these cards are specifically naming each other. You probably want a play set of these, and just like, yes, I do. Thank you, game, for making this incredibly easy for me to make my deck. So yeah, I really like Bogbrew Witch, and I really like the little cycle it has of the Newt and the Cauldron. If I'm going to sound really greedy here, which is a thing I'm doing on these M14 deck reviews at the moment, I really wish it could search your graveyard as well. So like, one that, basically, because these newts have an effect. We'll look at one in a minute, but like when it dies, it has the effect, and I really wish you could get them back when they died, and then you could just like keep cycling it every turn. That'd be amazing, I think, if you do that. As is, you need to get sort of another card in there to like maybe keep recurring a certain creature. But yeah, I like Bogbrew Witch, and like it's not maybe good. It's not good. I will admit it is not good. It's like the Empire artifacts; they're not good. But I just like it in terms of like flavor. And as I say, I just get a specific. I just really like it when cards specifically name other cards. Yeah, and I don't know why. I just do. So Festering Newt is the witch's little friend here. So 1 black mana for a 1/1. When it dies, target creature and opponent controls get -1/-1 to end turn. But that creature gets -4/-4 instead if you control a creature named Bogbrew Witch. So, something, when it dies, giving -1/-1 is perfectly fine. Makes like a really good chump blocker. Makes other creatures may be reluctant to block it because obviously it can do its combat damage and then do a -1/-1. So which is good because like Festering Goblin used to be okay back in the day. But to jump all the way up to -4/-4, if you've got the witch out as well, like that's starting to like kill like Serra Angels and stuff. That's a really chunky removal, and you got 3 of them in the deck as well. So yeah, really good. And this sort of ties to the theme of the deck, honestly, if I get into it, which is sort of like death triggers and in sort of like a sacrifice theme. I know black red having a sacrifice theme, like how groundbreaking, but yeah, it sort of plays into that theme, and we'll see a bunch of other creatures that have either death triggers or sacrifice effects. The downside being, I think this deck doesn't really have a way of churning out sort of like like tokens really, apart from I think Liliana's Reaver to maybe make zombie tokens, and I'd argue that's a win condition because it's got to hit someone for 4 to be able to do that. But there's a few things, there's a few tricks the deck has. So we've got 2 Bloodbairn, so 2 and a black for a 2/2. Sacrifice another creature. Bloodbairn gets +2/+2 to end turn. So this is almost a functional reprint of Vampire Noble or Vampire Aristocrat. I can't remember exactly the name from earlier core sets. The only difference is it can't sacrifice itself, which the other one could for some reason. But yeah, it's essentially that. We see this kind of like creature in black a few times. You know, like 3 mana, 2/2, free sacrifice outlet, which is pretty good for like a fairly decent power toughness boost to end turn. So yeah, this is all right. 2 Child Knight, 1 and a black for a 2/1 with lifelink. We've seen Child Knight loads of times. Yeah, perfectly fine, perfectly fine. And then 2 Sengir Vampire. Now this again, this felt like such a weird reprint in M14. I know I've talked about the weird reprints in M14. This one feels really weird because like this is like old style vampires. Like we're past this now in sort of like in terms of like the game establishing what vampires are now. Because like for several blocks now we've had them right. Okay, like vampires are usually like now like sort of human sized. They're not, you know, essentially, you know, like big 4/4s, like because you know back in the day all vampires used to be like sort of like angel equivalent in terms of stats. Like they used to have a high power and toughness, and they always used to have flying. And yeah, but now we've established like okay, no, vampires are sort of like people sized. They might have flying, sometimes they don't. You know, they don't always have it. They might be able to gain it, and you know they usually have something like lifelink or something. Or, you know, like, oh, if something dies, you get a +1/+1 counter on them or something like that. So it's weird that Sengir Vampire is reprinted because it's not in line with what vampires are at this time of the game. So it's, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad creature, it's just, it's a weird choice to make. So it's 3 and 2 black for a 4/4 flyer, which is, you know, that's, I mean, that's good stats. That is good stats. And then it has the very clunky, whenever a creature dealt damage by Sengir Vampire, this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Sengir Vampire. And, you know, like, sure, it's like, it makes sense because, you know, the creature it dealt damage to, it feeds on them and it gains the extra power toughness. But, like, I hope you get where I'm coming from, where, like, this feels like a weird reprint now, like, to take this step back on sort of showing, yeah, I say potentially new players who are getting to the game like, oh yeah, this is what vampires are like, and like they haven't been like this for, you know, a while. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I mean, it's still like 4/4 flyer, which is, you know, good for the deck anyway. You got 2 gnawing zombies, so 1 and a black for a 1/3. You can pay 1 and a black to sacrifice a creature. Type player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Sure, yeah, it's fine. If a creature you've got is going to die anyway, you might as well sacrifice it and get sort of like a bit of life drain out of it. I suppose it's all right. 2 Tenacious Dead, so 1 black mana for a 1/1. The wannabe reassembling skeleton. So when it dies, you can pay 1 and a black. If you do, return to the battlefield tapped under owner's control. So it has to be when it dies. Like if you miss the opportunity, you can't do it again. It has to be when it dies. So it's sort of like regeneration, or it's like how I think regeneration should have always worked, honestly, like to it be like this kind of death trigger effect. Yeah, it's all right, and obviously this is going to combo with like a lot of sacrifice effects you've got in the deck. But the fact that you have to leave the mana open for when it dies, like you can't pay it later on, like you could with reassembling skeleton, which I think is better than this card in pretty much every way. Yeah, it's it's all right. At least you got a repeatable creature here to sacrifice. But yeah, I've I'm definitely on team reassembling skeleton rather than team tenacious dead. And then a single vampire warlord, so 4 and a black for a 4/2. Sacrifice another creature, you just regenerate it. Sure, it's all right, I suppose. Yeah, there's really not much to say about it, honestly. Apart from I feel maybe it's just a little expensive, honestly. Like 5 mana just for a 4/2 that is reliant on sacrificing stuff to regenerate. It's not wonderful actually, is it? On the subject of not wonderful. Single Death Gaze Cockatrice, so 2 and 2 black for 2/2 with flying and death touch. Sure. I'm not going to compare it to Vampire Nighthawk because that is an incredibly unfair comparison. Because Vampire Nighthawk was incredibly pushed, and is a different rarity and different era of the game, like different metas and stuff. But like, I still feel this isn't great, like, so we've established that like a Windrake stats like two and a colored mana for a 2/2 flyer is generally okay in sort of like most colors. And then adding on the extra one just for death touch, it's all right. It's okay. But yeah, there's a reason this I don't think it's ever been reprinted. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. For a common as well, a core set common. Right, a single Minotaur Abomination. So 4 and 2 black for a 4/6. Sure, sure. Minotaur in black, which is like a big kind of preview going into Theros, where Minotaurs are going to be in black and red. Spoiler: this is going to show up, I think, in any black deck that's in Theros. Like I think it gets used in there. And then 2 undead Minotaurs, 2 and a black for a 2/3. Yeah. As you may have realised, Minotaur Abomination is literally 2 undead Minotaurs stapled together in terms of like it's double the cost, double the power toughness, and everything. But yeah, we got two undead Minotaurs, which again is setting up for Theros, where Minotaurs are in black, and really they're the only main like tribal synergy. So want to have as many Minotaurs as possible. Yeah, so we just got these 2 vanillas. I really wish they could have had like a ability, you know, but I know that vanilla creatures are important to core sets, for limited and draft and just general introducing the game to new players, I suppose. I got 2 Academy Raiders, 2 and a red for a 1/1 with Intimidate. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So this is what red used to do back in days rather than what it does now, which is kind of exile cards and you have a certain number of times to play it, like the Impulse Draw. This was Rummage Draw, where you discard first and then draw. It's okay. The fact that it's got Intimidate is okay as well, so it's got a bit of evasion. It's just very expensive, I think, at 3 mana. It could have been 1 and a red, easy. I think it would have been okay. But yeah, because you still have to discard first to be able to draw. It's not, it's inherent card disadvantage, I guess, but yeah, it's okay. And then non-creature spells got 2 corrupts. So 5 and a black does damage equal to the number of swamps you control to target creature or player. You gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Fine card is expensive, obviously, and obviously a bit let down by being in a 2-color deck where potentially like some of your mana base is not going to be swamps, so it's going to kind of make this less effective. But it's still okay as an inclusion, I suppose. 3 Ring Flesh, single black mana to give a creature -3/-1 till end of turn, which is. This feels weird as a black card to me again, like to give like a bigger power decrease than a bigger toughness decrease. But yeah, it's fine. It's essentially like a shrink effect, isn't it? Really, more than a kill spell. I mean, it kills X1s obviously, but yeah, it's fine. Single act of treason. We all know what act of treason does. Just gain control of the creature until end of turn, untap it, and it gets haste. Yep. It's fine effect. Actually, you got a lot of sacrifice effects in their way. This is a good. So this can work as a very roundabout kill spell, I suppose. 3 Thunder Strikes, so 1 and a red to give a creature +2/+0 and first strike to the turn. This is like an okay combat trick. Giving first strike at instant speed is always going to be pretty good. And with a fairly decent power boost as well. This is all right. This is perfectly fine. Then a single Smelt, 1 red mana to destroy an artifact. Yeah, again, like perfect little bit of utility here. A single Barrage of Expendables, 1 red mana enchantment. You pay 1 red, sacrifice creature, does 1 damage to target creature or player. So, yep, again, sort of ties into the sacrifice theme of the deck that it's sort of trying to do. I guess if you have this and Tenacious Dead out, you've got essentially 1 colours, 1 red, 1 black, do 1 damage to anything repeatably. You could just do that. That's an option, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's an okay. Like this, it only costing 1 red is pretty good as well. So yeah, I think this is perfectly fine. So then a single Bubbling Cauldron to go with the Bogberry Witch and the Festering Newt. So 2 mana artifact, 1 untap, sacrifice a creature, you gain 4 life. 1 tap, sacrifice a creature named Festering Newt. Each opponent loses 4 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So yeah, so this is why it's really nice to have this and the Bogberry Witch and the Newt out, and just so good. Just this nice little 3-card combo. If there's a way of getting the Newt back repeatedly, you could just be doing this every turn and just that's your win condition right there. But yeah, just shame there's only 1 of them as well. But I know the Bogberry Witch is not meant to be like the focus of the deck. But yeah, it's good. I like it. I really like this 3-card combo. And then Staff of the Death Magus, 3 mana artifact. Whenever you cast a black spell or swamp, enter the battlefield under control, you gain 1 life. A symbol of X in Y times. Yep. It's okay. It's fine. Just gains you life. Whatever. Not really what the deck is interested in doing, but we've got to include it because it's a core set deck, so we've got to have the cycle. And then 17 swamps and 8 mountains. So what could have been? So I do think the rares in here are as good as they could be, honestly. I think what was just missing were just some really kind of honestly obvious inclusions, I think, to play along with this kind of death trigger sacrifice theme. So Altar's Reap, 1 in the black, you sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. Yep, just turn a creature that's going to die anyway into some card draw. Dragon Egg, so 2 in a red for a 0/2 defender. When it dies, you get a dragon token, which is fine. So essentially, it's potentially two like sacrifice materials there. And Pitchburn Devils, just a kind of a fairly chunky-ish creature, 3/3, and when it dies, it does 3 damage to a creature or player. So it just serves as a bit of burn as well if it does die or you sacrifice it. So yeah, I just feel like these 3 should have been included in some way. But yeah, in summary, I think it's all right. I think it's got a stronger theme than the last 2 we looked at, the Light Force and the Psychic Labyrinth. It does get points as well because it has the Witch combo, which I say I do really really like. So yeah, I think this one's all right. Personally, I think it's okay. Thinking about the other 2 going ahead, is it probably? I think it's probably the best out of the M14 ones off the top of my head. Yeah, it definitely stands out because the other 2 have just no identity or presence in my mind at all. So yeah, I do think this one might be the best one. But I'd love to hear other people's opinions about this. If you've got any stories or thoughts or comments or opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it, I'd love to hear people's opinions on the Bog Brew Witch combo. I'd love to hear that. Yeah, stick a comment below. I'll give them a read. I'll be back next time with another M14 intro pack review. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.